Just let's get a
The guy didn't do his
second.
job.
You know how it is. You find one thing and then they find another thing.
Yeah, that I know. Same with your
So hold on
body.
for a second. All right. Shalom, shalom. This is Gidon Ariel, and I'm happy to be here today with my friend Robert Wolf, MD. Robert, I do believe that you and how are you, first of all?
I'm okay, thank you. How are you?
Where are you speaking from?
I'm in my man cave actually. It's my office slash man cave in Southern Florida. I have a condominium here in Southern Florida near Fort Lauderdale.
Very
But
nice.
half my life, I'm from Detroit, and half my life in Michigan, half my life in New England, and finally ended up down here right before the COVID.
Okay, well, hope that all is well over there. You certainly have a nice background. Is that your backyard?
I wish. That's
This
about
this
two.
of
That's
course
two extra million bucks.
this of course is my backyard. It didn't cost 2 million bucks. It is the Judean desert,
It's
and
beautiful.
that
It's beautiful. I mean, I could watch that stuff for hours, whether it's
that's right. Now,
California, Israel, Arizona, you know, anything but being Moses stuck in the Sahara or wherever he was. It's just not.
right. So you and I remind me if I'm wrong. We met at a on a group, sort of like a WhatsApp group, perhaps, or some other kind of group of people involved with Holocaust commemoration activities. Am I right? That would be the
That's
Network
correct.
of International Holocaust Experience, or NIHE, I think it
I
stands
know. I
for.
forget it too. I think it's the Network for Innovative Holocaust Educators, the NIHE. So
Sounds
uh,
right to me.
run by
Okay.
Adi, I guess, who used to work for Yad Vashem. I don't think she does anymore. She said she was somewhere else, but wherever she said she was, I had no idea what she meant because
Yes.
I know a little
So
bit about Israel, but not nearly as much as the people that inhabit there.
So Adi Bedin Rabinovich, the founder of that organization, she was, I don't know that she worked for Yad Vashem or someplace else. There are a lot of organizations in Israel that deal with Holocaust commemoration and Holocaust survivors. And she decided to create a network of same, and very quickly, over 100, I think today she has over 200 people from all over the world that deal with that area, which is quite incredible. It's a great, if there's anybody who's listening now who does something that has to do with Holocaust commemoration or helping Holocaust survivors, then please contact me and we'll see if we can get you onto that group as well. They're very nice people who help each other and from time to time make presentations. Today, Adi lives near the Gaza Strip. She lives in the Gaza envelope, or as they like to call it, the Israel envelope, because there's a lot of things that need to get done there, of course, since October 7th. But when I'll invite and interview Adi, then we'll talk about her. But meanwhile, I do believe that did you give a presentation to that group,
I
Robert?
didn't. I didn't. And it's funny because, a book presentation is a book presentation. It's meant for an audience that you're trying to sell books to, but you're also trying to sell the story. You're trying to sell,
Of course.
in our case, the fight against anti-Semitism, but in the context of a different angle of the Holocaust and beyond, not just Nazi Hungary in my case, but communist Hungary as well. So,
So
uh, yeah.
we'll get up to that in a minute. So chances are maybe we were both together on a different presentation,
It
and I
was
noticed you
recent,
in
yeah, a
I yeah I
couple of
noticed
months
you
ago.
in the
Yeah, a couple.
Zoom link of I don't know 10 people, 100 people. I don't remember how many people were there, and I reached out and you reached back, and here we are. We've spoken a time or two, and here's our chance to share to invite other people in to be a fly on the wall on our conversation.
Absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about yourself, first of all.
Well, like I said, I was born in Detroit, Michigan. I'm first generation American. Both my parents were immigrants from Hungary. I was raised in the Detroit area up and through 12th grade. Very fortunate, good friends. I was one of three Jews in my high school. My high school was probably about 40% African American. I was one of three Jews. We had a small Jewish community in our county, maybe about 100 families. Now it's down to very, very little sadly in the Detroit area. This is the east side of Detroit, not the west side. The west side is still flourishing, those colleges, universities. Anyway, fortunate enough to go to Tufts University for undergrad. I went to University of Michigan Medical School, became a doctor. I'm a radiologist. I trained at Brown University in Rhode Island for my radiology training. Very fortunate there. And then I did neuroradiology, a fellowship at Yale. And so that's 30 years of indentured servantry right there. I mean, pretty much. And so finally I got a job and started working. Somewhere in that time, I read my dad's stories too, but I didn't think much of it. But I was, I was so busy. I just retired from medicine, 35 years in radiology and 44 years all in when you consider college and med school. And it's not just saying,
40,
oh, it's just
44
44.
years,
It's a lot of
44
sweat.
years, 44 years from your the beginning of your master's degree until
Beginning, well, yeah, from the beginning of, from the end of high school, so college, medical school, a year of internship, which I left out, Framingham Union Hospital, great place, fun place, outside of Boston. So I've had a good run. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to have smart parents who reared me in an education and an educative way. Because they got to the United States and established their life late. I was sort of a late child. My dad was 40 when he had me, so I was it. Lucky me,
did
I
you
guess.
did
But
you did you did you have any brothers or sisters?
no, that's it. No, I'm the only child of only children, remarkably. So when I'm
Wow.
gone, that's it. My legacy is my child is the book, I guess, and the legacy is the story of a
Wait a
family.
second. Have you got a family or children
I've
yourself?
got well, I have so I've been married a few times, but my most recent, still my best friend. She's my business partner. We're separated. We're not, and she has two lovely daughters that are grown up and three grandkids. So they're all my stepdaughters and step grandkids.
Right.
They're
Wow.
all Christian, but they support our cause. They support the book. They support what we're doing, and they're very, very good people.
Well, thank you very much for that. Okay, so let's get to hear what your. So you told me a little bit about your life as a doctor and a radiologist. So what is your night job?
Well, I'm trying to retire, like literally, but it's so hard once you get caught in some sort of passion or some sort of a drive or a vector, it's hard to get off that ship. So that's where
You
I'm at now. The
certainly
less
you certainly seem like a passionate person. That's for sure.
I'm passionate. Yeah, it's everything. Food, dating, food, sports, music. Yeah, I mean, why invest your energy and your effort into something if you can't enjoy it, or if you can't feel it? I mean, it's otherwise we're just human flesh walking around as zombies. So you've got to have. For some people more than me, religion is another. Religion is their life. I mean, and I understand that. And for me, it's a combination of things, but. No, now I'm a writer. I don't know. It's you never thought 8 years ago, if you knew me, that this guy would ever write a book, and especially about the Holocaust, because I had Holocaust fatigue. My parents they lectured about it all the time, not just the Holocaust, the history, and they weren't all maudlin either. They were well rounded. So education, travel, a lot of museums, fine arts, all that stuff. But Holocaust,
Both your parents were Holocaust survivors.
they were, yeah, both from Hungary. So my mom's story is a little bit later in the book when my dad meets her finally for good, but he meets her once, like many, many years prior to when they started dating. So that's kind of a funny little story. But yeah, my dad was 11 years older than my mom. So he was born in 1922 and my mom was born in 1933. So my mom, as much as she talked about the Holocaust, did not document nearly as much about it on paper as my dad did. But my mom definitely helped my dad with his project. Essentially, an autobiography from his dad's upbringing, his dad's what he knew about his dad because they were very stoic, all the way to the end of the Hungarian. Well, actually, the Hungarian Revolution in '56 for our book, but all the way into the '70s when my mom and dad wrote his memoirs, if you will, or his autobiography. So
S- Okay, so I didn't give you an author's introduction, but there
that's
you are in the corner of your screen, the cover of the book that you wrote with what looks like four awards. I guess you didn't have any room for more than that on the cover.
I know we had
Uh,
to we gave up. No, I'd
uh,
take
I,
8 awards. I'd take 0 awards. I mean, the message is still the same, but
Of course, of course.
it's
I'm just saying that of course, besides Root Source, which is a platform for pro-Israel Christians and Jews to engage with each other, most recently started working on a new project called We Must Not Forget. Throughout that, within the framework of that project, we are endeavoring to publish 100 Holocaust survivors' story, each in their own book, just like that book is. I'm saying the word primarily, but probably that isn't necessary. Your father's story,
Correct.
and I'm sure it's a full length book. It's about I'm guessing about 200 pages long.
400 actually. There's 40 chapters.
Oh boy, okay.
It's a
So
page
he had a
turner though.
long life.
Don't be intimidated by the length because it's not Shakespeare. It reads. I mean, not that Shakespeare doesn't read well, but it's Schindler's List on steroids. That's what
Wow.
it is.
Hey, what I have found in my searches that again there are possibly, according to my count, about 5 million Holocaust survivors who survived the Holocaust, and each one, of course, has a story. Some of their stories, many. First of all, most I would say, I would dare say 90% of the people never uh, documented their story at all. In other words,
Agreed.
they might have,
You couldn't.
many never even told their story. And those who told, they just told it around the kitchen table to their children, depending on what kind of second generation Holocaust survivor their child is. It might have gone in one ear, out the other, like me. But those who did document their story in some way, I have found that, first of all, again, I'm guessing that I can use the word most people whose story is documented is on testimony pages in Yad Vashem, which is, don't know about the average, but I would say the majority of testimonies that were documented in Yad Vashem on testimony pages. One page, your entire life, including the terrors that you went through in the Holocaust, on one page. That's what I'm guessing. I mean, 2 pages. People did a little bit more. Maybe they even published a booklet of 5 or 6 pages. I was just looking a little bit today on a publisher of internet books. Many of the stuff that I saw is 5 or 6 pages. I'm looking for stories that I can publish as a full length book of at least 100 pages. And your book is 400 pages long. So that's already a lot for me to work on. But let's hear a little bit about your story,
Well,
your father's story.
the second half of the book, or the last third of the book, is about communist Hungary, so it doesn't necessarily have to be included in anything with the Yad Vashem. But speaking of which, I did donate a book. We did when I was in Israel at about the time the book was released a few years ago, almost to the date, the year before the Gaza attacks. I donated a copy of the book to the Yad Vashem, so I was proud and pleased to do that. It's all over the place. It's in like 30 library systems. The Hebrew, now I think where you got the book too, the Hebrew, what is it called? The Hebrew National Library,
The Israel National Library.
the Israel National Library. So I think it's in the system there. You know, Johns
I'm
Hopkins,
sure it is.
Yale, Brown, Emory College, University of Miami. There's a lot of places here, and I like it to be taught, or at least on the shelves at more. I mean, better in the classroom ultimately, but no, it's a real honor to be able to visit places like that. And like you said, how do you put a guy's life in 400 pages? You know, how do you put somebody's life in a short eulogy when they've lived so much? And even in our book, it doesn't even tell the fact that my dad turned around and became an OBGYN and delivered 10,000 babies in the Detroit area, a real form of redemption. It doesn't bring back the 50 or 60 million people that perished in World War II, all in. And that's quite a range of an estimate. I mean, 50 to 60 million, one person's enough, never mind. And it doesn't
That's
include
very
all
true.
the people that were persecuted and killed and imprisoned by the communists, not just in Hungary, but also in the rest of Eastern
Europe.
Europe that were occupied by the Soviets. So,
Yes.
but it is a form of redemption. And my dad loved what he did. You know, in the Detroit, you never know what he had gone through. No sign of
Right.
PTSD. My mom too. They were active in the Jewish community, the medical community, well respected, friends from all over the world, all faiths, religions, Hindu, Christian, Jewish, Muslim. And I'm the same way. I mean, that's what I'm doing. It's like I've got no reason to hate my next door neighbor. I've got buy them a cup of coffee. You know, don't look at them like you're weird, you're different, you pray differently. You know, treat them like you want to be treated yourself, like your own
Just
family.
the opposite. I like to say that I have a red line regarding the people that I'm willing to talk to. and that is I'm not willing to talk to people who I think are going to kill me.
Oh, of course.
Otherwise, otherwise, I want to talk to somebody. You're different than me. And, if we're not different, then one of us is superfluous. So I want
Yeah,
to hear
maybe we
about that
are.
people are different than me.
Yeah, and maybe we are. But an exception would be I'd love my book to be taught in prisons, for example, people that are convicted of hate
Yes,
crimes, and
yes.
specifically to Jewish people. It doesn't have to be Jewish, but
Wow.
because you remember the Asian hate after the coronavirus epidemic and the Islamophobia after 9/11. And I don't buy into all that stuff. I mean, that's just ignorance. That's the lack of accountability. That's a lack of knowing your history. And now, besides Holocaust deniers, we have 9/11 deniers. And I remind Americans that that was an attack against America. Jews died, Christians, Muslim, visitors, African American, you name it. It wasn't, and there's more of that. Gaza, the same. These are hate crimes. These are, and as a radiologist, as a doctor myself, you don't. We're into the preservation of the cell, the preservation of the anatomy, the beauty of how the humans put together. Not just humans, giraffes, dogs, cats, the whole thing. And people like this, Gaza, and 60, 80, 100 years ago, they don't think twice about chopping off your head, your baby's head, setting people on fire, killing pets. We never talk
Yeah,
about
yeah.
pets during the Holocaust. I try to bring it up, but there's very little that I know. I mean, I'm not a big Holocaust researcher, but except for my own corner of it. But pets, it can't be anything more heartbreaking than seeing somebody, and
You're
on and on and on, and just new ways for people to torture, to maim, to kill. The song remains the same, and
you're
I've had it. I don't know about you, but I've had it. This mayor in New York, I've had it with him. Talib in Michigan, screw you guys, calling for death to America and to people they don't know. I mean, come on.
you yourself, you said you're a radiologist. Of course,
I
that
am
means that you deal with X-rays, right?
correct. MRIs,
So
CAT
X
scan.
so can you tell the difference between a Jew and a Christian, or a black or a white or an Asian, by their bones?
Rarely, very rarely. I don't want to be, I don't want to, I could say something really racial. I could joke about it. The nasal bones, maybe, I've got the nice classic John Lennon Jewish nose and it keeps growing, Geddy Lee from Rush.
I'll bet.
But no,
First of all, John Lennon wasn't
you can't,
Jewish himself.
you
I'll
can. I
bet
mean,
that it's just people talking, and really we're all the same. Here comes a nice quotable. We're all the same under our skins.
absolutely. Our DNA is so closely juxtaposed even to other species, and we all know that. So it's just a matter of a few changes that, skin color or and religion is about how you were grown up, how you were raised. It's not, I mean, people do change religions, but I would say, I guess would be that 90% or more stick with what they've been taught, what they learned.
Right. I wonder, people who are listening to us and really haven't even begun to hear your father's story, but your openness, and your obvious, it's so obvious to you. We're all brothers, all human beings, and we just have to be friends. When you are a child, a child of survivors of the Holocaust, I wonder how many people who are hearing about this are wondering, how can this person not be bitter against the world, or especially the people who have killed his family, and his family's family and friends, and yet here you are, just open to everything. I think that's just incredible.
I try not to be bitter. I mean, you're going to have your bitter moments. When I read about my dad's parents, for example, and Reed talked about that, I had to walk away from the project for a while. They perished at Auschwitz, and it was unthinkable. And these are the grandparents I never met. They perished at 50 years old. So yeah, you can be bitter, but I asked myself, what if we had Hitler in the middle of my synagogue, surrounded by 20 of us or 50 of us, just like a Twilight Zone episode, and we're all armed, we can all torture him and punish him. And then I'm thinking, then I'm no better than him. I'd rather educate him, sit him down, like Clockwork Orange, and tie him up, give him eye drops, and make him sit there and watch the movie about our story and your story and 100 other stories that this is what you did. Gosh darn it, and let him learn, but through education, even though it's too late with somebody like that. Apparently schizophrenic, but same with the war criminals. I'm not war criminals, but hate crimes. That's the same. If you even if you want to kill me, you're going to listen to what we have to say, because maybe I can change your mind. Maybe there
I,
is reform out there.
I, I like your idea. I wonder how successful it could be, and if it hasn't been tried.
I don't know. I mean, Hamas, I'm not going to convince. The skinheads, the white supremacists, most of them, they're set in their ways. They're not going to. But I'd like to wrap our story around 99%, the 98% of people that think normally like you or me, practice our religion, go to work, enjoy our families, enjoy whatever little time we have on this beautiful planet Earth
Yes.
before it's too late. I mean, wasted time is one of our worst enemies for sure, because we don't get much of it. So.
Robert, would you tell we have about 10, 15 minutes left of this half hour. We can go a little bit longer. Tell me a little bit about what you'd like to tell me here on this is your opportunity about your
Well,
father's
I'll tell
story.
you. Well, Not a Real Enemy was my dad's biography. I turned his autobiography into a biography. It was a lot of work. It was many years. Had a great team effort. The book it's a history book about little known Hungary from the end of World War I to the end of the Hungarian Revolution in 1956, through my dad's eyes. But he quotes a lot of history, and we confirm the history. That was a lot of research done, a lot of help from professors. It's an adventure. There's 20 miracles in the book, at least 20. Four escapes, twice from forced labor camp in Nazi Hungary, twice from communist Hungary. He even missed an escape, which was a lucky thing in communist Hungary. It's a great story. The luck on this guy. I mean, and then just the way he got into medical school, the way he found out his parents' whereabouts at Auschwitz, arguing with armed Russian soldiers, cloak and dagger stories, places that
Wow.
he would hide it. Friends that you thought would be your friends were your enemies. People you thought were your enemies would be your friend. Twists and turns. And when I read this the first time, probably 30 years ago, I said I didn't think much about it except his first escape. And then I'm busy with like family and work. But then recently, and this is pre-Gaza, and I don't think anti-Sem it might have been on the rise, but I don't think anti-Semitism was in the forefront. And they wrote this as though they knew that I would. Well, they wrote it for me, I'm sure, but and maybe they thought in the back of their head that I would rewrite it and share it with the world. And that's what I had to do when I read about all these miracles and escapes. And like, oh my God, if you don't believe in God before reading this book, you sure will. You sure will
So
by
let me
the end.
understand. You had your parents' autobiography, and
Correct.
took that and you expanded on it and created a biography of it.
As much as possible, tried to keep the fidelity as tight as possible from first person to third person. Some of it, with the review of the professors of some of the facts at Auschwitz, we had to switch around or we had to leave out because one of the professors, Michael Berenbaum, who worked with Spielberg in the Shoah movie, really, really compliment that he actually did at one of the testimonials. But he had his notes to say about what we said about Auschwitz. We included Mengele. I don't know. It was in my dad's autobiography. Supposedly, Mengele met with my dad's father, but I couldn't confirm it. And I didn't know the complexity of Auschwitz, the complex, and so we kind of kept it out. But we'll call that a rumor
What
that
what
my
what
dad's. Go ahead.
what? Tell me what? I mean, if your father already had an autobiography, um, why did you feel, except to maybe edit it slightly, that it was necessary to turn it into a 400-page biography?
Oh, that's a great question. Nobody's really. It was more of a manuscript. I mean, it wasn't really. I mean, by the time I got a hold of it, it was on a disc. I mean, that's the evolution of technology. They went paper to pencil to typewriter to computer to disc. And my mom, even though passed at 83, she was still computer savvy. So she had it on the disc, and that's what I inherited. But no, they never published this. And my parents spoke excellent English, but it was still broken English at times, and words got to be spelled correctly. And my
Say that's
co-author, it was dead in the water for a while, this biography, because it was just point A to B to C. Dad did this, dad did this, dad was born here. But my co-author, Janice, after a couple of beta reads, said, we could really make this into a special novel with conversations and letters to and from home, parallel stories, converging stories, and that's exactly what she did. So it's a little bit embellished, if you will, the letters to and from home, some of it, but it's all based on what my dad had said, that his experiences and what if dad said that's what happened, then that's what happened. I mean, he was a man of integrity and not the only one. And so there's no denying the Holocaust. Even the Nazis the Nazi descendants can't deny it because a lot of photographs taken, even by the enemy, many by the enemy. So
especially
that's
yes.
anyway. So that's where we went with it. These stories were so remarkable, and I thought, I can't leave this on a disc. Can't leave it
So
unpunished.
again, so when did you get this disc from your parents?
When my mom passed away in 2016, dad passed in 1997. So it's almost been 30 years that I've been an orphan once. And then mom in 2016, a historian friend gave me the disc and said, you've got to read this. You've got to look at it. And I retired from
19, you said
radiology and went back.
you said that your dad died in 1997, did you say?
Seven, yep, almost 30 years ago now. So it's been
And then your mother in 2006?
2016. So
2016. So she was about 20 years
yeah, oh yeah,
with
no,
you.
and I'm part of the reason she had a boyfriend after a few years after my dad passed, and it was great that she had that company. And he was from down here in Florida. Kind of part of the reason I'm down here is extended family. Super nice guy. Lucky as we get older, it's I see a lot of people alone, and loneliness and isolation is a danger to the elderly, even if you're not
Of
elderly. I mean,
course. Of
it's
course.
something. But anyway, no, my mom was lucky that she had Eugene,
So
and then he passed a year before she did.
before your parents passed away, you said that you were born in Detroit,
Correct.
and so you were living there until when? Until you went to college?
Correct. Yeah, I was, yeah, K through 12. Yep, up until
And
12th
so
grade.
your parents stayed, excuse me, they stayed there
All their
until they
lives. Yep.
decided.
Yeah, they did. Yep. But once my dad retired, they snowbirded a little bit. First to Southern California, Palm Springs, which ironically I might get a book presentation there. There's a recent connection, which would be really nice. Beautiful area. And then when my dad passed away, my mom was very, very lonely for a couple of years, and then she met Eugene. By the way, a Jewish American war veteran. So Eugene escaped Hungary before the war, came to the
Wow.
U.S. and fought for the United States. One of a half a million Jews, by the way, if people don't know, that's about 100,
Wow.
550,000 Jews fought for America in World War II. So, and Eugene was one of them. He was in Italy and I think France.
Just one second. Just one second. I
No, no,
hear a
I'm just
number.
saying. But that's how I ended up in Florida is through my mom.
I would I would like to take this opportunity. After the Holocaust, of course, there was a lot of Jewish immigration to the United States of Holocaust survivors. So I wonder how many Jews there were in the United States during the Second World War. That a half a million of them were fought in the Second World War. That's, I mean, you're not an expert
It's a
on
good
that, but
question. That's a
it's
good
an
question. Well,
incredible.
here's another number. I last read 14 million Jews on this planet. I've read as much as 17 million. It's still, no matter what the number, that's quite a range too. But no matter what the number, it's a very, very small percent of the world's population. So if the
Of
rest of the
course,
world wanted to decimate us, I don't think it'd be too hard. Fortunately, most people don't think like, Mamdani or Hitler or people that just that they don't respect human life. So hopefully that's not an issue. But it's estimated that if it weren't for the Holocaust, we'd have a population of at least 43 million Jews in the world, which still doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot better than 17 million. I mean, it's triple the amount, double or triple the amount. So,
it is.
but
It's a lot of woulda, shoulda, coulda, as I
well, there's a
like to
lot of
say.
coming back. Yeah, it's so hard. And we're already 60, 80, 100 years out. I mean, it's so hard to come back from that
We
kind of thing.
still have not. Understand that we still, the Jewish people, has not yet reached the pre-World War II population levels of the Jewish
It's
people.
unbelievable. I can't put my arms around it because if you go to Brooklyn, New York, I mean, I see these ladies, the Orthodox ladies, they've got these baby carriages, four, five, six kids around them, and Israel, I imagine the same, be fruitful and multiply. But
Exactly.
there's other communities do it too. The Asians, the Chinese, they had to put population limits. The Muslims, I'm sure there's over a billion Muslims on this planet, and I'm
Uh,
convinced
uh,
most of them are peaceful. I don't have one of my best friends is Muslim, Saki. He's a squash pro, he's been my friend since college, So I like to
Interesting.
believe that most are reasonable. Otherwise, we'd have chaos here. I mean, we do have some anarchy and chaos here in Europe, Australia, Canada, but fortunately, it's still what I worry about is when the guns are pointed toward us, like for my parents, that's the problem. At least the guns are still pointed toward the enemy, but when that changes, who knows?
While you're, let's get back to your family. While your father was alive, did he tell you his story?
Usually in a family argument, he would make the point about how spoiled Americans were and us kids and Americans had
Well,
everything was
he barely gave you over his story orally.
he
Besides,
did, but usually a family fight. He would talk about how tough it was at the forced labor camps, getting urinated on and starving and
okay,
bad conditions.
those are
So
vignettes, but to actually tell the story from the top, from the beginning to the end, like he did, I assume, in some way in his autobiography, That was something you only discovered upon his death?
Yeah, that's that. Yeah, sadly, I mean, and many years after his death too. So, and a
So
few
he
years after mom died.
so he
But
did not he did not make any presentations to high schools or anything like that,
no,
or
no, and I wish I had that motive. I wish I had that energy and time to work with him on that because it could have been a lot more authentic. But there it is. I mean, look, it's never too late to do the right thing. I get my Jewish guilt from my mom. I always joke about it with her Hungarian accent, like her saying, "You couldn't do this while we were still alive." That's I can hear her saying, "Well, sorry, mom, but I did it." And it's never too
never
late to
late
do
for
the right
never.
thing. And
So
hopefully,
your mother was working with your father
yep,
to to commit his story to paper,
correct,
and
correct.
then she went and put it on the computer,
Yep, exactly.
and that is what you got only after she passed away.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, when I read it, it was on a paper, it was on a print, well, it was a typewritten manuscript, so it was second stage. And I still have that. I still have the typewritten manuscript. I kept it just for, verification, but the book's been out a while. So if someone want to
And you
challenge,
at that when your mother passed away, you were still working as a medical doctor.
actually, it's funny you say that. I was let go from my job. It turned out my second to last job. Every time I lose a job, somebody dies. So don't fire me. You know? My father. It happened with my father-in-law. I was between jobs then, but yeah, no, I was working in a job that I liked, but they let me go. Long story. It's my next book. The things they don't teach you in med school. All the crap that you put up with, good and bad. But anyway, no, so I was actually unemployed a month before my mom passed away, and I was grateful. That gave me the time to take care of my mom's affairs, and it did take a lot of time. It took a lot of money. It
Did
took a lot.
that did that become your de facto retirement?
I thought so. It took me a year to take care of her affairs, and then the next year I retired. And then the next year, 2018, a friend of mine in Michigan said, "Would you like to come back and work part time? I need help with some X-rays and ultrasounds." And it wasn't much money, and it wasn't a big commitment, Wednesdays and Thursdays. But the thing was, it brought me back to the book. So so I worked 5 years doing that, and then some health issues a couple of years ago to help me decide I'm just done. I don't want to die
Okay,
sitting at a desk, reading X-rays. I'd rather be at the beach or on the golf course or whatever. But anyway, but yeah,
besides
back to work, and that brought me to the book.
yes, besides that part-time work that you did a few years after that you started a few years after your mother's passing, you got a copy of that of his your father's story with a little bit of your mother's story, of course, put in over there, and then you got the idea. We have to turn this into a book.
It was Superman's kryptonite. It was a zap. It was, I don't know how to, that's a corny way. It's kind of called out to me. It summoned me. So between cases, your radiologist got a left and a right screen. The left screen is the patient queue. The right screen are the images. So between cases, the left screen was my dad's story and the right screen was me dictating it into a biography. So I didn't have to
Wow.
write and get writer's cramp. And I started out a page a day, 2 pages a day. And by the time I was finishing up, I was up to 10, 15, 20 pages a day. I mean, I was just so into it. And it was right before I
How did
finished
you
up.
work?
And
How did you work? You would read what they wrote, and then you would spark it, and that would be
well,
the
yeah, I
difference.
just save it. I mean, it was a year project for me too. So we started this in 2018, and then beta reads, and then my co-author, and on and on and on. It's not just you can't just write a book and hand it to an agent and sit back with your feet up smoking a cigar saying, "I want to collect my royalties." It just doesn't work that way. So you got to work hard to market. You've got to work hard to get a publisher, a good co-author in my case, a great book cover. This guy was from Croatia, very
It's a good
eccentric
cover.
guy, but he did a great job, I think, and he was motivated by the area affected. He said that it hit him where he lived, that part of
We've
Europe.
been talking a little bit, Robert. We've been talking a little bit about your story, and we've been talking around your father's story. We're a little bit beyond the half hour, but like I said, we can spend a little bit more time. Do you think that you could give a spoiler or a trailer of your father's story of your book
I could
in
tell
5 minutes?
well, I'll tell you about all four of his escapes if you want, but we'll start. His first one was very harrowing, out in the middle of nowhere, middle of the mountains. Him and his friend Frank, they had about a 3-day window to decide when to escape. They knew they were near the Austria border. They knew the war was
Escape?
almost over.
Excuse me. Escape from what? From where? He's not in the middle
Exactly.
of
Well,
the.
that exactly. Where's the light at the end of the tunnel? Escape from a line a march that they thought could have been a death march. No, not we don't. Not a lot of people know about death marches in Europe, including me. I mean, but they existed for the forced labors, and rather
Let's
than
Robert,
anyways.
let's not start from your great grandparents, but let's start from when your father, I'm sorry, your grandfather and your father realized something is really very wrong here, and then quickly get to the point where he had to escape.
Okay, so the 30s was the rise of anti-Semitism, and yeah, newspapers was a big thing, and they had the Arrow Cross organization and others too that were anti-Semitic, even after World War One. So they had the Red Terror, they had the White Terror, they had Horthy, they had a lot of political, and I don't remember the history 10 minutes after I talk about it. But anyway, we go to my dad's childhood was pretty good. That's an irony that I tell people here in the United States. He had a good childhood, and boom, at 21, 22 years old, he had to go to forced labor camp. His parents were scared, but they lived with dignity and pride. They listened to the BBC every day, which was illegal. A Jew couldn't own a radio in Hungary, but they did. But they were defiant. They listened to see what was going on. They were hoping
When
for
did
the end
these
of the world.
when did these anti-Jewish laws begin in Hungary?
1930s. I mean they evolved, so they weren't all the same day, but 1930s. 38, 39 was kind of, and of course, Hungary really were, they got killed in the war. It was horseback versus tanks, so they didn't put much of a resistance, and that's next thing you know, they were occupied by the Nazis. But they didn't start mass genocides until later, 43, 44. So, and
But
meanwhile, my
even in
dad
the
was a
late,
forced
but
labor
even
camp.
but even in the late 30s, it was far from
Oh,
good for.
we're getting there now. I mean, fortunately, it's not as many people percentage wise, I don't think, but it's dangerously high now. Where in the cities and the protests, people that'll listen, useful idiots as they call them. Um,
Let's not talk about this year. Let's talk
well,
about
no, it's
first
the
of the
same
late
thing.
30s.
It's the same thing. So we'll go back to the 30s. So the war starts. Hungary gets occupied. Jewish restrictions, Jewish laws. The yellow stars, of course. Restricted shopping time. No Jewish weddings. And my dad was useful because he was a young man that saved his life. So we went to forced labor camp with many others from all over the country. So and many were killed. Back only 5% of the forced laborers survived in Hungary. So and they were treated as
Amazing.
POWs, even though they were unarmed. My dad was always on the run, and like you said, no light at the end of the tunnel. They had a harrowing escape in the middle of nowhere, got away from the guards, but had no idea where they were going to end up, where the next meal was coming, where they're going to sleep, eat, work. And it was a really, really rough time, that late part of World War II. Escaped again, downtown Budapest. They were in the dog pound. They got double crossed by somebody. A split second timing, luck. A pack of cigarettes actually helped save their lives, believe it or not. A comic book and a pack of cigarettes, and a lot of luck, like I said, and timing. And then in the communist Hungary, my dad escaped too. He was a medical student, and he was good, and he loved medicine, but he hated the communist system. So he took off, made it to Austria. He BS'd his way through and made it, but he changed his mind. Fear of reprisal, fear of ruining his career. He went back, and he was on call the next night. Nobody knew he was gone. And then finally, his fourth escape.
Wow.
Yeah, right. Nobody knew he was gone. I mean, and then finally, his last escape with my mom, 56, end of the Hungarian Revolution, a 2 week war, 3,000 deaths, countless refugees and injuries. Dad had to double down besides OBGYN. He was a surgeon, trauma surgeon. Mom was a med student at the time, ran the blood bank. And after all of that, the dust settled. Budapest was a mess. The country was a mess, and the communists were still there. And mom and dad said, enough is enough. So, two wars, two persecutive regimes, and it was bad for the Jews no matter what. And it turns out, decades and decades later, that was still the case. Now,
Wow.
finally, Hungary's getting a break, but those people, poor people in the that century, for the better part of the 20th century,
So
did not
when
get a break.
so he got married in Hungary after the Second World War.
We have a great, yeah, 1953 under Stalin. They had an illegal Jewish wedding, and a KGB guy was there, and they arrested the host, who was a surgeon, and they tried to pin the Wallenberg murder on him, and he wouldn't budge, he wouldn't break, but he was broken. I mean, a year later, they tortured him and imprisoned him for a year. He came back.
Wow. They tried to pin the
The
Wallenberg.
Raoul Wallenberg murder on my mom's uncle, Laszlo Benedict. He was a general surgeon. He was chief in the Budapest hospital. They got leveled him down to nothing, and he got banished to some rural clinic in Hungary after they and then Stalin fortunately died
Is this story
soon.
about Raoul Wallenberg and your uncle in this book?
The Raoul, yes, the Raoul, yes. That's all in the book.
Wow.
And this was all when my parents got married in '53. So while they were on their honeymoon, her uncle got arrested. So and he was away for 12 or 13 months. It wasn't good. So and then, Stalin,
Well,
this is about the doctor's plot of 1953, I think is the name of the book. That's when Stalin had this paranoia about doctors trying to kill him, through food
wow.
poisoning or whatever. And that was enticed, apparently, by a radiologist, ironically, from what I remember reading. It was a radiologist who, unfortunately, a radiologist, or actually, it was an ophthalmologist, part of the 9/11 attacks. It's a shame to see doctors that get involved
Yeah.
but I guess
Well,
anybody's tempted for money or whatever the case may be.
believe it or not, doctors are people too.
Oh, tell me about it. I know. We're all prone to mistakes, but uh,
Listen, this has been a true whetting of the appetite for me. Your story sounds very interesting. You yourself are a very charismatic guy. So I'm
we haven't
going
even
to we're
we haven't even talked about happy stuff.
right. We're going to break here, and we will publish this on our conversations channel, and we'll be in touch. Maybe we'll have a follow up.
I appreciate that. You did say once you were interested in maybe doing my book presentation, and that's about a 15 or 20-minute thing with the PowerPoint. That's something we could record, and you could share that too. It's very well received, and
Well,
it's
so there you go. I'm
I would love to do that with
not,
you if you're available, and
knocking on an open door. So yes, definitely set up another time. Hopefully, this time we won't have to wait two or three times until we
no
actually get it done.
problem.
And we will be in touch, sir.
Appreciate it, Gidon. I appreciate your time and thanks for inviting me. Let's stay with the fight because we can't fight anti-Semitism ourselves. And when you asked me about the NIHE doing a presentation for them, indirectly, yeah, because Mihak Bursa, who that's all she does is Holocaust education, she did a talk. I reached out to her and she sponsored me for a talk at multiple places. So I have done things through NIHE, but we could do more. No doubt we could do a lot
Okay.
more. And
Well, we all can do
that's what we're still
more.
doing.
Thank you very much, sir. Have a great
Appreciate it.
day.
Enjoy. Feedback welcome. Enjoy.